Hey everyone, this is Stephen James from Project Life Mastery, and today I'm going to share with you the 4 archetypes of self-mastery. King, warrior, magician, lover. What are these archetypes and how can we access these archetypes and bring them out of ourselves and utilize them so that we can actualize more of our potential, achieve even more success, but also live a more meaningful and more fulfilling life? So let me explain, let's dive in. What is an archetype? Well, this idea of an archetype comes from the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. And Carl Jung studied under Sigmund Freud. He took the idea of the unconscious mind and took it a step further and discovered that there's something called the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is part of our psyche that exists in everybody. It's universal, that we all can relate and connect to inborn tendencies that influence human behavior. He calls these archetypes. An archetype is essentially a model or a pattern of thought, belief, personality, or behavior that exists within all of us that we relate and connect with. And 4 of them that I'm going to share with you today, there's a lot more, are the king, warrior, magician, lover. Now, if you want to learn more about Carl Jung and archetypes and the collective unconscious, he's got this book here, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, a very famous book, and he's influenced a lot of psychology today, Jungian psychology, if you want to learn more about it. I want to today share with you guys how this relates to your life and how you're showing up. And as I share this with you, I want you to think, which of these archetypes do I relate most with? Which is most dominant in my life day to day and shows up the most? And which of these archetypes is maybe underdeveloped? I haven't cultivated enough. It's maybe a little bit weak within myself that I can bring about more in having more balance and achieving what I want. And I'm also going to make this more practical and share with you how to use this day to day. Sound good? All right, let's dive in. So the first one I'm going to start with is going to be warrior. The warrior archetype is all about action and strength. It's the part of yourself that takes massive action, that follows through on what you say. You know, the warrior, what's really important is integrity and honor and following through and doing what you say, being true to your word. If you say you're going to do something, you follow through and you do it to the best of your ability, but you also finish what you start. The warrior can grind, it can hustle, it can execute. The warrior loves challenges. In fact, challenges are an opportunity that the warrior seeks out to grow, to build its muscle, to build courage. The warrior is very focused and has precision. The warrior will sacrifice himself for a greater good, for its family, for a higher purpose. The warrior will make sacrifices and even leave its family and loved ones in order to pursue something that is meaningful and impactful and significant to its life. So the warrior has this ability to break through, to follow through, to take massive action. And this is an energy, an archetype that exists within all of us that some people haven't cultivated. So some people, for example, they have the aspiration to be successful, and they're lazy and they procrastinate and they struggle with following through. That's just someone that hasn't brought about and cultivated and developed their warrior within them. And I'll share with you some ways that you can do that, some ways you can bring about each of these archetypes if there's something that you're lacking. So for example, with the warrior, you build that just by following through, doing what you say, regardless of how you feel. You know, having rituals, having routines, having habits that you cultivate and being disciplined and have willpower in your life. It's also being able to seek out challenges and adversity and breaking through it. So for example, one thing that I do is I do a cold shower. You know, that's just a little challenge that I do. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, I don't want to do it, but it's something that I do just to develop grit and to bring about the warrior within myself. So doing things physical, working out, going for a hike, going for a jog, lifting weights, doing something that challenges yourself every single day is something that will bring about your warrior, as well as just taking massive action towards your goals, towards success. Because that's the only way you'll achieve success. You have to have warrior. You know, you have to bring about that part of yourself if you want to achieve anything in your life. So crucial is the warrior. The next one we'll discuss is the king or the queen, which is all about vision and stability. The king or queen brings order to chaos. It's able to have a big vision, a grand vision for not just itself, but for its community, for its family, for the world. It's a leader. It's someone that thinks big picture. The king and queen has a maturity about themselves and is able to take a step back from the battlefield and strategize and plan and reevaluate, make adjustments to their game plan, and finding a more intelligent, a more efficient, a more elegant way to achieve its outcome. So one limitation of the warrior can be stubborn. The warrior can be fixed and focused on what it's doing, that it doesn't take a step back to look at things from a different perspective. Some people, they're taking massive action towards their goals and dreams, but they're not taking a step back to access king or queen to really evaluate what they're doing and saying, hey, is this working? Maybe I got to make an adjustment. Maybe I got to switch, go on this different path or add this or change that. The king or the queen can utilize time management, but also priority management to look at what it's doing and saying, can I apply the 80-20 principle here? Is 20% of these actions that will yield 80% of the results, right? So how can I achieve in a more elegant way, a more intelligent way? So sometimes people, when they're younger, they've got the warrior, but they haven't developed and cultivated their king or queen. And as you get older, you learn how to achieve more with less effort, without having to use your warrior as much. That's kind of a stage of life that I'm in. I don't need to hustle and grind like I used to. It's just not necessary. I've done that. That's how I got to where I'm at. But the stage that I'm in now in my 30s, because I've already achieved success, I can hire people, I can delegate, I can outsource, I can achieve things in smarter ways. I can invest my money and use leverage to produce even greater results than I ever could just by only accessing my warrior. So the king and queen is crucial to cultivate within yourself if you want to achieve success, but also just to pivot and adjust and to look at things from a different and higher perspective. Okay, so how can you cultivate king and queen? Setting a vision for your life, writing it out and focusing on it and visualizing it, having a vision board and knowing where you're going to go. And that's what the warrior needs. The warrior needs direction, which is what the king and queen can provide. Setting out goals, planning out your day, setting a plan for your month and for your week, and scheduling things, and really taking deep thought behind what you're doing and why you're doing it, and is there a better way that you can achieve it? Or, kings and queens often will seek out mentors, a sage or a wise one, or the magician, which we'll talk about next, because they also understand that I'm going to look at things from different perspectives. It's useful for me to have a counsel. It's useful for me to learn from other people. And that's a more intelligent way for me achieving what I want. Okay, so that's the king or that's the queen. The third one we'll discuss is the magician, which is all about wisdom and intuition. Now, the magician is that part of yourself that exists that realizes that you don't need to take action and do all this stuff necessarily to achieve a result. The magician realizes that everything is just perception. Everything is just a meaning and interpretation that we make up, and that you can change that perspective, and that, in fact, the magician might believe that everything's perfect the way it is, that we just got to trust that everything's happening for a higher purpose and reason, find the gift in it. Or the magician can achieve a result by insight, or changing a perspective, or changing a belief, or through manifestation and the law of attraction. See, the magician does not need logic or reason or rationality behind its thinking and the way it goes about things. Whereas the warrior does. The warrior might be more, I need to see the proof and the evidence to support what I'm doing. Magician doesn't need that. Magician's not as much interested in the physical as the metaphysical. The magician understands that there's a higher purpose, the universe is at play, God is at play, and that through meditation and prayer and manifestation, there's more things possible through that than anything else. And to trust in God and trust in the universe, or trust in the higher purpose. So the magician has a different balance to things. The magician doesn't take things as seriously. The magician doesn't make things life or death like the warrior does. The magician kind of has some humor and some softness and has wisdom to look at things and, maybe not make it bigger than it is, and just maybe see things as they really are. Sometimes we make things bigger than it is. As a drama king or a drama queen, the magician can look at things and say, you know what, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, that, maybe this is a gift for me to go through right now, and I can learn this from this, or, I can, change my approach in this way, or I can change my thoughts and my beliefs, and I can surrender, I can trust and have faith that things are going to work out the way it's supposed to. That's what faith is, where you believe when there's no reason to believe, to support it, but you just trust. That's what the magician has the capability of doing. I think of this kind of like, a warrior is Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, and maybe the king or queen could be like an Obi-Wan or someone like that, but the magician is Yoda. And Luke Skywalker, he needed a king and queen. He needed also Yoda, a magician, to help him actualize his potential, because he wasn't going to achieve it just on his own and with his warrior mentality if he wanted to become a Jedi. So that's just an example of how these archetypes can exist in movies and stories and how we all relate and connect to it. So how can you bring about more magician? It's through meditation, prayer, visualization, manifestation, the law of attraction. There's many spiritual modalities and metaphysical modalities that you can pursue. That's why I've done things like ayahuasca and used, psychedelics in some cases to get different insights and perspectives. And that's had, in some cases, a bigger transformation in my personal development than the traditional self-help approach of just massive action, setting up these habits and these routines. See, one thing, I remember one time someone left a comment on one of my videos and I was describing masculine, feminine energy, and they said that that's just a theory. Yes, but most of psychology is a theory. Archetypes and the collective unconscious, even the unconscious mind, is a theory. Behaviorists, people that believed in behaviorism, used to attack and discredit psychology because you couldn't prove it, you couldn't measure it in the same way that you could with behaviorism. But that doesn't take away from the truth and the usefulness of it, because a magician, it doesn't need the proof and the evidence to support something. The magician's able to look at it and say, is this useful? Is this helpful? But you got to understand, masculine, feminine is a theory. Unconscious mind is a theory. Archetypes are a theory. If you're into developmental psychology like I am, and you know about spiral dynamics, that's a theory. The 6 human needs is a theory. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory. The 5 love languages is a theory. But again, are they useful? Is it a framework that we can relate to and connect with and use in our life? And that's what this is, as well as all the other frameworks that exist within psychology, whether that's from Alfred Adler or William James or Carl Rogers or Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung or Abraham Maslow or Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. There's no proof and evidence to support his hypothesis of, meaning. And I can go on and on and on when it comes to the different schools of psychology. Fritz Perls and Gestalt therapy. You can go on and on about that. So that's the magician. That's how you can bring about that energy within yourself. Now, the lover, the last one, is pretty self-explanatory. It's about connection and love. It's the part of yourself that has unconditional love for yourself and others. It's a part of yourself that has a sensitivity and a caring and compassion and consideration for others. It's forgiving of others and yourself. The lover might look at things and say, you're being so hard on yourself. Because one thing the lover does is it helps to relax the warrior. The warrior, if you're always living in that, which is useful to use the warrior, but not to live in it 24/7 as some people do, right? Some people, they're just a human doing rather than a human being, right? The lover helps bring out the human being and helps you to enjoy the process and the journey. And the magician does as well, to realize, don't be so attached to things as the warrior is, or even the king is. You're so attached to the outcome being a certain way, and you have this plan, and you expect things to work out exactly as you plan. But the magician says, hey, if it goes according to plan, great, but if not, that's okay too. I'm going to surrender to this and recognize that everything's just going to work out the way it's supposed to, and that's okay. So the lover helps relax the warrior and helps to have compassion, consideration, fun, play. And that's an important archetype. That's an important part of ourselves to also cultivate and bring out. So some people, for example, now I want you to think, as I've shared this, which one of these is most dominant for you in your life? Which one shows up the most? Which one do you lead with? Are you more of a strategic thinker, a planner, a visionary, a leader of a company or your community, or a parent, for example, as a king or a queen? You manage things and you think about things on a higher level and a higher picture. Maybe you think about delegating and planning and strategizing and organizing things and scheduling things. Okay, is that something that you lead with that shows up for you? Or is it something that you're lacking that you need to cultivate? Or do you lead more with your warrior? You take action, you're disciplined, you're regimented, you follow through on what you say, you finish what you start. you challenge yourself, you take massive action towards your goals and your dreams? Or is that something that you're lacking, where you're lazy and you procrastinate and you struggle to get out of bed and do things and follow through on what you say? If that's you, then that's something that you have to develop. Or are you more magician? Do you lead with your magician? Oftentimes people like this are more spiritual people. They're people that might practice and utilize law of attraction and try to manifest things in their life. And they pray and they visualize, and they're very in touch with that. They're very connected with that. They're very open-minded to trying different things and trying energy work and different ways of healing and whatever it might be. There's so many different things, in that realm. Or is that something that you're lacking, that you need to cultivate and bring about more magician within yourself? And the last one is lover. Do you lead more with that? You love about people, you want to please people and take care of people and nurture people and, do great things for people, and you're loving to others and loving for yourself? Or is that something that you're lacking that you need to cultivate? Maybe you're too hard on yourself and you beat yourself up a lot, and you got to add some more fun and enjoy your process and enjoy your life a little bit more. So you can bring about lover, of course, just by loving, loving yourself, others, having practices and rituals of self-love and being more empathetic and sensitive and caring towards others, right? So that's an important one. So the exercise for you: which do you lead with? Which one do you need to cultivate? I want you to leave a comment below if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave a comment. Let me know which one you lead with, which one you need to cultivate. And here's how I like to use this in my life. If I have a challenge or a problem or a goal that I'm trying to achieve, one thing that you can do is use these 4 archetypes almost like a board of advisors. Okay, you're going to consult with each of them. So for example, let's say I have this big challenge that I'm trying to overcome in my life. What I'll do is I'll ask each of these archetypes that exist within myself. So I'll say, sometimes what I like to do is I put myself in the state of the king, right? So for example, I'll put myself in the state of it and say, taking a deep breath in, imagine I've got my king or queen energy. Obviously king for me. If you're a lady, I say queen. And I would think to myself, okay, what does my king say about this problem? What would my king advise me to do? My king says that, I got to take a step back. I got to look at things and maybe come up with a new plan of attack. The king says, what I've been doing hasn't been working. Maybe I can learn and take some things from that, but I need to learn from others. I got to find some more knowledge and wisdom and consult with people, and then formulate a plan and some goals that are achievable that can help move me towards overcoming this problem or this challenge that I have. That's how I can consult, and that's what the advice of the king might be for me. Now, if I go to my warrior, I put myself in the state of warrior, I might say, yes, right? And put on the physiology and that intensity of the warrior. And I'll say, warrior, how can I overcome this problem or this challenge? And I'll say, the warrior says, I got to take more action. The warrior says, I got to push myself. The warrior says, I got to raise my standards. The warrior says, I got to have more discipline and more willpower. I got to have accountability. I got to challenge myself more and cultivate rituals and habits in my life. Okay, great. Thank you, warrior. Now let's consult with the magician. Put myself in the state of the magician. I might, put my hand on my heart or on my stomach and, take a deep breath in and just kind of access however way that I want that part of myself. And I'll say, magician, how can I solve this? How can I overcome this? And say, well, the magician says, Stefan, you're worrying too much. You're thinking too much. Okay, interesting. The magician says, Stefan, just trust that everything's going to work out. Magician says, don't be so attached to the result. That's all ego. It doesn't really matter in the end. It doesn't matter as much as you think it really does. And this is all just a part of your journey and your development and your growth, this problem and challenge. There's a gift in it. There's lessons. It's all happening the way it's supposed to in your life. It's all beautiful. It's all magic. And you might not be able to see the purpose of this just yet, but you will eventually, 5 years or 10 years or even a year from now, you'll see things from a different perspective, and that it's all okay. It's all going to work out. This too shall pass. Great wisdom from the magician that's very useful that we need at different stages of our life. I'll maybe ask the lover, and I'll put myself in the state. Might be hand on my heart and just feeling love. Lover, how can I solve this? How can I overcome this challenge? And I'll say, my lover says, just relax, have fun, play, enjoy yourself. Don't take life so seriously. Be more forgiving to yourself and love yourself and build that relationship with you and love others in your life and love God and love the universe and love nature and spend more time in nature. Okay, great. Amazing. So that's just a little example of how you can do it. I usually spend more time doing this and really put myself in the state, but you'll get certain answers from these different parts of yourself, especially if you put yourself in the state of it. So that's an assignment for you if you want to take it on, which I encourage you to do so. I want to make this video practical for you, but with a challenge or a goal that you have right now in your life, maybe journal or just ask yourself and access these different parts. What does your warrior say? What does your king or queen say? What does your magician say? And what does your lover say? And there'll be incredible wisdom and insight. And then what can you do to cultivate each of these within yourself more? How can you bring about more king, queen, warrior, magician, lover, so that you can be more whole and actualize more of your potential? So hopefully this is helpful for you. I can relate to all of these in my life. I've used these archetypes in my life. I know how to access my warrior when I need to, but I also know how to take a break from the warrior. I've actually been now stepping more into my lover and even magician and accessing more of those parts of myself. So I don't need to, tire myself out, because you can get burnt out using warrior. And king and queen is something that I operate a lot with, with my life, and think big picture and have a big vision and how I impact people and serve people and have a purpose greater than myself. Right? So these are things that I've been through the stages of and been able to cultivate these different parts. And that's what's made me more balanced and more whole. So listen, if you enjoyed this video and this type of content, please give this a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys and your support. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. This is a bit of a different style of content and things that I'm interested in. I don't know how well it does on YouTube or on podcasts. And so I thought I'd throw it out there. And if there's demand for more, I can share with you more about psychology and the things that I've learned and studied over the years that have served me in my life. So leave a comment, and of course, subscribe at Project Life Mastery for more content from me on personal development and how you can live your best life. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you again in the next video.